When Jesus received the news of John the Baptist's death, he withdrew by boat to a lonely place where they could be by themselves. Divine Providence, some 3 years ago, made it possible for us as a small group to hire a car and drive to the Sea of Galilee. There we were able to hear the sound of silence and to perceive what it meant to go away from the hustle and bustle, the hurry and the flurry, and just to rest upon the pause of eternity. To hear the sound of silence lapping in the ripples of the sea, and to see the power of our God who controlled the elements. Around were signs of his wonders, and indeed we wondered whether it would be possible to celebrate the sacred mysteries there where the Lord had produced the miracle of which the Gospel speaks today, that of the multiplication of these 5 loaves and 2 fishes, of which there is a concrete trace in the rock where he actually performed it. Unfortunately, through Islamic persecution, things have been lost, including most of this rock. It had been demolished, but a small part remains, the central part, and it is just enough to celebrate upon, and it is there in the chapel of the German Benedictines, where there is a mosaic going back to the early centuries of this miracle. It is an indication of the power of our God, and also it is an indication of the nature of our faith and worship. He meant from the beginning to be our bread of life, and he did not found just an assembly, he founded a church where he would continue to be. This is our faith. It is not human. But the celebration, if it is noisy, if it is more of the same thing, does not allow the soul to get away from the hustle and bustle, for that soul will but find more hustle and bustle in the house of God. We need to be careful that we do not contaminate our worship. But we need also that physicity of separation. We were able also to go to quiet places, very deserted places. The desert has not changed. The way down, or actually up, to Jerusalem has not changed all that much, for the elements, heated and baked, are the same, and so is the heavy weight of the sun, of which the Gospel actually speaks, those who have borne the weight of the sun for a day. And so the Lord knew sweat. He knew what pain was. He trod our earth. Now this is to be borne in mind, that if the Lord, after the death of his cousin, the forerunner, felt the human need to withdraw to silence, then he is indicating that we need to do the same. We cannot be functioning for the Lord if we are always doing things in a hurry. By doing more things than our ancestors did in one day, notably in the realm of messages, we are not available to quality time and solitude. It is important to realize that if we're not careful, ours is the first generation that will be sacrificed to technology. We need the desert, and the desert is what it says, a deserted place. It was on Mount Tabor, not in Jerusalem, that the Lord appeared to those 3 in his glory. And the Gospels indicate that it was a high mountain apart. We also find that the Lord has a predilection for early rising and going to a solitary place apart and there praying. Also for the high mountain where he can be alone all night in prayer. The soul needs to take the Lord as its model, and in its day those high points of sacred solitude must be there. If in our solitude we take with us the world, notably the messages of the world, then we will never know solitude and its blessing. And in that solitude, things start to happen. When one is calm, one is workable upon. When one is tense, one is not. It applies also to our human relationships. We are only touching other souls when we have the total calm of receptivity and tranquility. Listening only happens when all the pores are open. So too with our God. Quietness is the test. Can we bear the sound of silence? Do we feel its need? Or are we ready, yes, to be sacrificed, of course for Jesus Christ, but in practice for what we are doing for him and thinking we are meeting him, when in fact at death we will see we have done many things but missed the appointment. What is this life? J'ai gaspillé ma vie à faire trop de choses. I have wasted my life doing too many things, muttered a Carthusian at the end of his life. There is too much to do on earth, and more than need be done is done by all that do too much to do all well. For this one law of patient moments old that ancients knew, the new-found sound of man can ill contain, and waning is the moon that should have known to slowly be, to wholly be again what once it calmly was, to days outblown. O Master of the energies of flesh that twitch and chatter o'er a loudest day that held a bulging load, what did enmesh the very brain that breathed till it should pay a debt too heavy to a great machine that had no power to stop till all had been?